Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 135 in the book of Genesis. Today is going to be about bravery and bowing. So, we're in this passage in Genesis chapter 32 yesterday and now 33 today, where Jacob is going to be challenged. So, it's an idea of walking with God, and we're going to see Jacob step up today, and Jacob is really going to risk it all. So, up to this point, he's risked his stuff and he's risked other people. And today, Jacob is going to risk himself. So he's going to put himself at personal peril. So he's wrestled with God. He's entered this struggle. And remember, the defining characteristics of Christian walk, it's normative behavior to struggle. And that often takes place in bad circumstances, which is certainly Jacob's going to qualify for today. So he has this encounter with God. And after this encounter with God, what does Jacob do? Well, first of all, he gets a new name, which is Israel. What does Israel do? Israel means struggle with God. And certainly that means internally. And now we're going to say, okay, you've struggled internally. You're changed, hopefully. Now what are you going to do? What's the behavior going to look like? So listen in here. This is from Jacob chapter 33 and verse number 1. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau, that's his brother who wants to murder him, was coming, and 400 men with him. He's bringing, I just love this. He brings 400 men to a family reunion. He sent 550 plus gifts to Esau, and as far as Jacob knows, it didn't work. And now Esau is coming with 400 men. So here's what Jacob does. So he divides the children among Leah and Rachel and the two female servants. So there's basically his four wives. He put in sort of wife order here. He puts the servant wives with their children in front, and then Leah with her children, and then Rachel, who has Joseph. He's the only named son there, but there are 11 children. Last of all. And then here's the important verse, verse 3. He himself, Jacob himself, went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. Verse 4, but Esau ran to meet him and ... I'm not going to tell you how it ends because Jacob didn't know how it ends. But before we find out how it ends, you got to stop and pause and say, well, what about this bravery? So note the bravery, verse 3. Jacob is saying, I have what's precious to me, my wives and my children, most precious, my family, and here's what I'm going to do. The same thing I did with everything, all the stuff. I'm going to stretch it out. And up to this point, he's put all the stuff in front of them, all these things in front of him. And here we find that Jacob now goes before. He puts himself at personal peril, at risk. He puts himself before his family in the light of danger. And in my view, this demonstrates the real change of Jacob's heart. So how do you know that someone's heart changes? You know, you say, I had a change, so you can talk about it, but then what do you see? And that's the important thing. So the second thing that happens is after he goes before, he also goes to ground. So humility, definitely a new thing for Jacob, bowing to the ground, and he walks before his family, and then he bows before his brother, his older brother. And Jacob has had some spiritual experience and words and the presence of God, and he remembers maybe, behold, I am with you. I will keep you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I promised to you. So maybe he's holding on to the promise that God gave him 5 chapters ago in Genesis chapter 28, verse 15. But I don't want us to over-spiritualize this moment. This moment was physically scary for Jacob, his brother, who by all intents and purposes is dead set on killing Jacob, is ahead with 400 of his probable soldiers. All right, let me pause for a second and just talk about Israel, the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel, we have a new name for it. We're calling it Israel. Jacob's new name is Israel. He's also going to be known as the nation of Israel. It has 16 people in it so far. And the nation of Israel, right at its inception, which I call it this day here, this night, the nation of Israel is named and started, and it starts in the first day in existential risk. If you look at the news today, Israel today is at existential risk. It's in the paper all the time. Is this going to be Israel's last day? They didn't know it was going to be their last day on the first day. So isn't it true that Israel, which means struggles with God or God struggles with them, isn't it true that Israel is a struggle nation and a special nation and still under the covenant of Abraham, which means you get people, you get land, and you get me, which now we know means Jesus. So yes, there's a physical struggle for Israel's existence, a national struggle, and a spiritual struggle. So after God is my own, what happens next? So this idea with Jacob demonstrating humility is so important. He does not know how this is going to turn out. He's seen the face of God, maybe literally. Maybe God's given him some exceptional grace with regards to that. And at least he's given him this encounter. And he sees the face of God in the context of this trouble with his brother, with my brother, with the purses. So we can have struggles too, with family, with people, with health, finances, with reproduction. We've seen that with Hagar and Sarah, with obedience, with Eve, with role fulfillment. We've seen that with Adam. What about the face of my brother? So we don't know what's happened with Esau. Did his attitude change over the 20 years while Jacob was gone? We don't know. Or perhaps did the Lord work a miracle while God was working in Jacob's heart during the night? Maybe he worked in Esau's heart overnight as well. What we do know is he's promised to murder him. And so we can struggle out there and we can struggle with God. So we can struggle with circumstances and we can struggle with God. I think it's Psalm 139. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me, know my thoughts. See if there's any grievous way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. So Lord, what might you have for my thoughts or my eyes or my tongue or my service or prayers or my worship? What might you have for my giving, my generosity, my zipper? So struggling with God will often mean struggling out there too. So internal struggle is going to be demonstrated by external stuff. So Jacob has changed. He's walking before his family. He's bowing before his brother. Well, what about Esau? So stay tuned. Come back tomorrow. We got to find out how this ends. Thanks for listening.